Great, thanks so much, and likewise, thank you for inviting me to speak at the venue. I am the Department of Navy Standardization Executive. Recently came in behind Mr. Bill Bray, who retired about 2 weeks ago. So many of you may be familiar with Mr. Bray. So I'm coming up to speed and working closely, certainly with our systems engineer and our chief engineer in terms of really where we're going forward. I think Mr. Godwin made some really critical points, especially talking about a lot of the challenges with regard to logistics and sustainment. And in 2019, the Department of Navy updates to the standardization program emphasized the application of performance-based strategies to reduce logistics costs and the footprint, but also to facilitate interoperability. Again, we further emphasize the use of non-governmental and commercial standards in preference to using, developing, and maintaining the government standards. And of course, we note that the defense standards may be used where we really don't have any other practical alternative that we can identify to meet the user needs. But clearly, the push is for use of non-governmental and commercial standards as we press forward. Talking a little bit about moving into the digital environment, clearly there's a lot of, I'd say, newly charted territory, and standards in this environment are just foundational to the achievement of interoperability, particularly with regard to the modular open systems approach and digital standards for autonomy interfaces. And those are a couple things I'm going to touch on briefly. In addition to additive manufacturing, and a couple of success stories about standardization and configuration management and human systems integration. So with regard to the MOSA and digital engineering, those are both congressionally reportable initiatives under Title 10. Not to get into the NDAA, but just a reference in Section 805 states that all major defense acquisition programs are to be designed and developed using MOSA. And again, there's another NDAA section that talks about establishing a digital engineering capability for development and deployment of digital engineering models, and to provide the testing infrastructure and the software to support automated approaches for test evaluation and deployment. So a lot of emphasis on, as we continue the press to be able to invoke standards for sustainment of the systems, as Mr. Godwin talked about, that are out there for decades. At the same time, we are really pressing forward in how we develop and apply standards, particularly commercial standards, in the digital engineering domain. So a couple things that, from a Navy perspective, that we are really focused on. We had led an effort to implement policy and standards for digital engineering and increase digital engineering implementation within the Navy. So we've released a Navy Digital Systems Engineering Transformation Strategy document back in June of this year. It aligns with the Defense Digital Engineering Strategy, which was published about 2 years before that, and really is intended to help drive enterprise solutions with digital engineering and modular open systems approach Tiger teams that are supporting the Title 10 law that I referenced just a few minutes ago. Again, the intent of our digital transformation strategy is to transform systems engineering capabilities by using those common, composable, interactive, model-based systems, and to store and exchange data and models and information within and across our program. So a significant challenge is, one, establishing those digital environments and the standards that help govern those environments. And then two is really migrating across all the programs of record to start using model-based systems engineering and the requisite tools as a best practice and institutionalizing that. So we know we've got a long way to go, but certainly for the Navy, model-based systems engineering and the establishment of the standards that help govern that is a high priority for the Navy. Moving on to autonomy standards in particular, we're very focused on developing digital standards for autonomy interfaces supporting the naval portfolio of unmanned maritime vehicles. With the proliferation of those unmanned vehicles that we anticipate in the coming decade, speed to fleet and cost savings will be realized. We're confident by devising and maintaining a portfolio of these pre-built shared autonomy microservices. And so around those autonomy microservices, it's really critical that we develop the standards for how we operate these, how they communicate, how they interact, et cetera. Right now we're basing on the Navy's Unmanned Maritime Autonomy Architecture, or UMA. That's being implemented through a coordinated effort between the government and our industry partners. And in fact, you'll hear more about that tomorrow. There is a DSP workshop topic tomorrow afternoon, and you'll hear more on that from one of our Department of Navy representatives. With regard to additive manufacturing, Navy's released several AM guidance documents integrated with current industry standards, and we actually have been very successful in starting to deliver real solutions in that environment to the fleet. We've been able to additive manufacture parts, so parts in terms of sustainment and depot work. A lot of work to continue going there, but I think we're off to a pretty decent start, and that's an area where I know all of us have an awful lot of effort ongoing. I did mention earlier a couple success stories I wanted to share. One is in configuration management. The CM community would move several government-owned standards into an SAE-based portfolio. And that portfolio provides a consistent approach. It's integrated with existing government forms and contracting documents. Don led a DoD IPT that released Mill Handbook 61B, which defines those new government CM relationships. So that was, I say, a long work in progress, but some very good work done, and it's published in the Mill Handbook. With regard to human system integration, we've actually migrated many government HSI documents into the SAE industry standards, providing a consistent approach with DoD governance, but using the industry standards. What's important about that is that well-employed HSI program will reduce the overall life cycle cost of the system, and it's going to reduce human error that both increases overall system efficiency and improves safety of operation. HSI working groups have been set up across the DoD to effectively manage the SAE platform, and they're all aligned with DoD processes. So those were some good news story. With regard to challenges, again, I think Mr. Godwin really eloquently talked through some of the challenges that we all share, I'm sure, across all services with regard to logistics and sustainment. Again, one of the challenges I wanted to cite in addition to that is moving into this digital environment and not only applying but just defining and institutionalizing common standards and flexible. We have to be flexible in this environment, but to get both our programs of record and industry moving into this model-based environment and having the foundation there to be able to actually realize the benefits that we all believe are inherent in a model-based environment. So that's a significant challenge ahead. We certainly are going to continue the press with the teams to transfer government standards to industry standards where it makes sense, with a bent towards industry standards first, and then have to have a rationale for why we may not go that way. And we'll continue to create solutions and space to improve our DON participation with industry committee work and improve our DON accessibility to the industry standards. So with that, I will hand off to Ms. Baldwin and wait for questions. Thank you.